A very good afternoon to you and welcome to Opinion. A very good afternoon to you and welcome to Opinion 2017. It's Thursday, 21st of September 2017, one day after the Supreme Court of Kenya issued a detailed ruling on their earlier determination that nullified the election of Uhuru Kenyatta in the presidential petition of 2017, the petitioner being Raila Amolo Odinga and the respondents being IEBC Chair and Uhuru Kenyatta. And I'm joined in studio today by the ODM Chair of Kajiado County. He's also the nominated MCA by ODM in the Kajiado County Assembly and a Maa political activist, Innocent Katoo. Mheshimiwa, congratulations on your nomination na karibu sana. And of course by researcher and a political analyst, Vickery Omwandho. Vickery, yes, welcome. Karibu sana. Thank you. Now, yesterday, actually the entire day up to about 11 p.m., that's when the Supreme Court finished delivering its ruling. A very, very, very eventful day. And there were protests, demos before and after, still going on. There were bees in the perimeters or precincts of the Supreme Court. Now, before we get into the details of the ruling, let's have a look at this clip where bees mysteriously found their way around the Supreme Court. They had the police scampering for safety, media, wananchi, protesters, demonstrators, and supporters. Have a look. Well, Mheshimiwa, sijui kama one comment about the bees is saying that the original 34 bee forms were the ones that were checking in. The original 34 bees. Somebody is quoting the Bible in the book of Exodus, chapter 23, verse 28, that and I will send bees ahead of you to drive your enemies out of your ways. Nyuki zilitoka wapi? Na mimi inaaminika ama inasemekana kwamba zilikuwa zinauma tu aidha polisi ama watu wamevaa nguo nyekundu. Sielewi kuvaa nguo nyekundu kuna uhusiano gani na nyuki? Mheshimiwa,
to my opinion, thank you so much for inviting me here.
Karibu sana.
Sisi ni watu huko nyumbani.
Yes.
Come from villages there.
Mashinani.
And I'm actually glad. I'm glad to have such a chance today.
Yes.
And to my opinion, I think I don't want to bang on the issue of 34 Bs. but I think what makes sense is the Bible code.
Yeah.
It makes sense because we have been victimized for a long time, and maybe it was a chance for God to, help our people for that day.
Are you suggesting divine intervention?
Yeah, I think that was it. That was it.
I like your conviction, Vickery. Where could these bees have come from?
These bees may be from God, maybe from God.
Come on. Okay, we know bees were created by God, like all of us, but really, do we have to drag God into this?
But basically, where we have petrol within the CBD, we don't expect bees. So that was more or less a miracle. The gods are not happy, so they just came maybe as a warning, telling us that
could somebody have brought the bees to the scene?
That may not be very possible. Because along that area, we have several CCTVs, so I don't think.
Yeah, there are not too many trees outside the Supreme Court, so people are asking.
If at all somebody brought them, then from the security officers they would be able to tell this is the guy who brought the bees. Yeah, the guy would have been arrested. So we're saying that the gods sent a sign that at least you have to change your ways. You don't have to kill people like Musando. You don't have to what?
I mean, speaking of Musando, I mean, people are saying all sorts of things, that Musando was seen around the Supreme Court. I don't know.
But basically, if you look at the pictures of how that guy was butchered, like an animal, we expect that the gods are not happy. So certainly, they came to say just as a way of sending a signal. Nyamonda
or Mageto is saying a special drone squad on a sting operation. The police were being partisan. Obo Ake is saying next time Nisiafu in parliament. Zed is saying 34 bees. Samuel Marasi is saying we are watching from Kitengela. Tibim. This Tibim thing, I mean, Tibim himself was here, the guy who did that song. This Tibim thing is not going away. Yeah. So, gentlemen, let's get into now the gist of the ruling. Yeah. First of all, it took quite a bit of time, but we'll discuss that later. There are certain things that came out of that ruling. One of the things that was said is that the IEBC must, as an institution, conduct the elections according to the provisions of the Constitution. Failure to do so, if we go into another election and the same irregularities occur or are reported and a case is presented in court, Maraga said they will make a similar ruling. What does that mean? Are we likely, if IEBC does not do the right thing, are we likely to find ourselves in an endless, vicious electoral cycle?
I think to that is the fidelity of the Constitution.
Yes.
Is actually the most crucial thing. And the way Maraga is doing his own thing, is doing in a manner that everyone appreciates.
Everyone, I'm not sure everyone appreciates. I mean, somebody has called him Wakora. There has been demonstrations. There's been a petition to remove him from office.
But it has been appreciated all over the world. Even internationally and even some part of Africa. People appreciate him. And I think it is very important to respect the Constitution. One thing that we should also know, should understand is the law is not about the Constitution, it's what the judge says. What the judge says is final. That is the law. We might have a Constitution, but at some point, you see members of Parliament amending it.
Yes.
But when it goes to the judge, he comes with his own, come up with another.
It's his own interpretation.
And that is the final, that is the law. So I think we should stand by that and respect the rule of law and respect the ruling, what Maraga said.
Vickery, if IEBC does not reform or does not do things as is desired by the Constitution, or whatever threshold the courts feel has not been met, what happens? We go back to an election, Supreme Court, back to an election. It's like the Bermuda Triangle.
Certainly, you know, somebody sitting somewhere can say, you know, a Supreme Court perhaps may not nullify an election twice. So they can just then go into the election, bangle everything, mess up everything, assuming that a Supreme Court cannot nullify an election twice. So I think Maraga was sending that warning that, you know, we've nullified this election, but should you go ahead and violate the Constitution, proceed with the same madness that we saw in the previous election, then bet if you do that, we will be able and willing to nullify that election.
I remember the DCJ, Philomena Mwilu, saying elections is not about numbers only.
It's not an event.
Yeah, it is not an event, it's a process. Yeah. Because Uhuru and company have been saying there were numbers and the numbers were saying they won and their victory has been stolen. How important is the process?
Election is a process actually, and it should be very transparent, credible,
yes,
viable,
and verifiable.
and verifiable. The thing, it starts from registration all the way to the casting,
And the tallying and
the tallying and transmission, and it is a law. So if you have your numbers, you can create your numbers, like what you've been saying when they were transmitting the results. These guys, we could even see results coming as from 5. It is unreasonable because closing of the polling station is 5.
Yes.
And then that start period of 15 minutes. And then I'll start counting of the ballot papers.
Yeah.
But by 5 or 7, by 5:15, we see results transmitted. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. So he was trying to show that election is a process that must be transparent.
And the process must be respected.
Yeah, it must be respected.
Kimanzi is saying noma sana zinaitwa flying squad ya NASA. Enata Mohammed is saying the entire world appreciates him except the goons and corrupt people. I don't know which people those ones are. We also have Zad saying sting operation. Vickery, back to the ruling. The Supreme Court did mention that the National Returning Officer, that is Mr. Chebukati, did not announce results that were verified, as you're supposed to have verified all the Form 34Bs, 34As that are announced. I mean, what does this say moving forward that Chebukati is still the chair? Because you are supposed, as the National Returning Officer, to announce verified results.
Now, I was not very happy about that ruling. For one, when the court found out that there's some irregularities and
Irregularities and illegalities
that led to the nullification of that result, it means somebody didn't do it work right.
Yes.
Remember, the Election Act is very clear. It says that the results as announced at the polling station ought to be final. After announcing of these results at the polling station, they are supposed to be taken to the constituency tallying center.
Correct.
Where they're supposed to be condensed into a Form 34B.
Yes.
From 34B, we then have Form 34C. By the time Mr. Chebukati was announcing his results, and I was keenly watching, the result that was recorded on the certificate that he gave Uhuru Kenyatta was the result of the portal.
Which at some point he said were just figures.
Yeah, so after they realized that NASA was going to court and that the Election Act was not followed as regulation, then they changed. That is when the term mere statistics came about. So Mr. Chebukati ought to be in jail because he violated the election regulation, he violated the constitution, he thwarted the will of the people. Because upon declaring Uhuru Kenyatta the president, he had not received 10,000 Form 34.
And even the ones he had received were not verifiable.
Yeah, even what he had were not. So what we are saying here is, if as the returning officer, he is declaring Uhuru Kenyatta the winner based on some results on a portal, which he later negates and says are mere statistics.
Yes.
And when we go to court, he now says that he used Forms 34C to declare Uhuru Kenyatta as the president, when it must be remembered that on 14th, when NASA asked for Form 34 for
A's
from Mr. Chiloba,
Yeah.
he said they were not able to avail such forms. So it beats no logic. This election was neither electronic nor manual.
Yes.
It means it is something else according to Chebukati and Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta. That is why when the IEBC lawyer, Mr. Nyabuto, was asked during his presentation, he was saying that what was on the portal was not the actual portal. that they had something else. But when it came to presentation, he could not tell the court what this something else was. So generally, the 8th August election was more or less a joke.
It was neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Just a quick one. Alatif Yusni, Garissa for NASA. Moti Steve Tibin. Say something, Moti, after saying Tibin. Ula Onesh, only enemies of justice are not appreciating the ruling. That's why they are calling it a coup. Now, there's a sticky issue here. Irregularities and illegalities. I mean, a lot of people expected perhaps the court to say on irregularities, A, B, C, D, which they have done very well. On illegalities, for example, the blatant contempt of court when you refuse to open the servers against a court order that was very specific, then based on this illegality, Mr. Chiloba, Mr. So-and-so, Mr. So-and-so, DPP take this very specific action. Mheshimiwa, kuna watu wengi walidhania. Sijui kama hisia zako ni gani kuhusu hiyo?
To my reasoning is the issue of illegalities and irregularities. And it was very specific. The Supreme Court mentioned the institution.
Yes.
The IEBC,
Correct.
has made these mistakes intentionally because that's systematically.
Yeah, they say it's systemic.
Systemic.
Yeah.
And systematically. The thing is, for me, I don't think it's the mandate of the Supreme Court to mention the criminals involved in the whole thing. I think it is the mandate of the Magistrate Court. So it is now upon the NASA lawyers to define it, the whole ruling, because it's not the mandate of the Supreme Court to charge any criminal issue regards to the ruling yesterday. So I think now it's upon the Orengos and Ochieng to go back and define the whole thing and take the whole judgment again to the Magistrate Court so that the DPP will get time and get a chance to prosecute and determine who has actually done all these mistakes.
Is this a sort of anticlimax? I mean, a lot of people thought when we walk out of the Supreme Court yesterday, I mean, somebody like Chiloba will probably be in the same cell that Modama and Kuria were in sometimes last week. Is this a sort of anticlimax?
Basically, when I saw it, it's like the Supreme Court was trying to play smart.
Were they intimidated because of the events that happened on the same day as the day before?
Certainly, they were intimidated because you will see Jubilee supporters who were paid and they were all over the street, burning tires, doing all manner of things at the watch of the police. So certainly they were paid. And our projection, what we predicted was Jubilee and Uhuru Kenyatta, for that matter, was trying to threaten the Supreme Court so that some of the judgments, some parts be scrapped off, and most likely that was the part that maybe would say that Chiloba was culpable, Chebukati was culpable, because that would mean we constitute another commission, which will take time. So the Supreme Court was, to some extent, acting on the best public interest, so that they wouldn't want to create a crisis in that we will end up not having a commission to carry out an election.
But if you're saying that there are systemic issues within the commission, I mean, this means that the rot in IEBC is not only limited to Chebukati, Chiloba, and the level of commissioners and the top level management of the commission. It means trickling down, because look at it this way, even the arrows on the ground,
Also involved.
yeah, the people who, like, I remember Honorable Musalia Mudavadi mentioned that in a polling station in Embakasi East, where we know very well that the maximum number of voters in any polling station is 700, the arrow brought forth a form that gave Uhuru 1,600 votes. So even that arrow who signed that form and said this is the result is culpable. So if the Supreme Court is aware that the rot is this deep, are they throwing Kenyans the deep end? Because if the rot is this deep, we can't expect a different result, can we?
Certainly, many Kenyans are not happy. The reason they're not happy is somebody must have committed all these crimes. And therefore, we expected the highest court on the land to say that these people who are culpable to be charged and to be taken to jail. Because it must be remembered that 40 billion Kenya's money, that is more than the value of Thika Superhighway.
Yes.
That's a lot of money.
It is.
So these criminals ought to be in jail. But as I've said, the Supreme Court was acting smart.
Katoo, walikuwa wametishwa na wakatishika?
Mimi sioni hivyo. I don't think so. You know, if you try to look on our prayers, that's NASA.
The specific prayers of NASA.
Specific prayers of NASA. There were no such prayers.
Correct.
And if you look even on the cost, you know, they determine as well.
Yes.
And they say every party to bear its cost.
Bear its own costs.
So I think if there were such allegations, for me, I think, to my opinion, and that's my opinion, I believe these Maraga and the team were playing on the interests of what was actually the will.
What was brought
What
on
was
the
brought
table.
on the petition.
So by the time NASA was bringing its prayers and the petition,
Yeah.
there was nothing specific about certain officers
No.
within IEBC.
There was no specific.
But that doesn't stop now somebody else from going to court and
No, it
I
is.
remember, I think Senior Counsel James Orengo was saying something similar
Yeah.
last night in the press conference.
So for me, I think it wasn't the role of the Supreme Court to charge the criminals.
Okay.
Per se.
Very
But
well
they have to take back the judgment to the either magistrate court or high court, and then they can now pursue
Okay.
all those who have actually performed that allegation.
Very well. Yeroba, I mean, you've said this a few times. I really appreciate you for the justice in Kenai. Will that be something you are involved in? I don't know. Okay, thank you. We also have Mary Nerima Motere who's saying Kenya is big enough for all of us, but too small for everyone's greed. The corrupt and unjust want to cling to power. Now let's just have a look at a clip by lawyer Firoz at the Supreme Court, and then we'll get into the next issue of a possible constitutional crisis if the elections are not done in 60 days. Take a look.
We on this side extend our appreciation and give our thanks to each judge, and we do so regardless of whether you allowed our petition or you dismissed our petition. Also, we tend to become too much like the English Premier League. Whenever Jose Mourinho loses, he blames the referee. And he thanks the referee when he wins.
Okay.
That the referee's word is final. As the court said a little earlier, a court's order is law, and the referee's order is law. But you know how fans are. They speak loud and very, very long and louder still. Then finally I pick up a newspaper, the Sunday's paper, and say, I think I should end this by referring to the report of the game. It says, look at the score line. The score line says 4-2.
Wow.
We on this side
interesting
extend
analogy there. I don't
our
know.
appreciation
I'm not,
and give our
I'm
thanks
not a Man U
to each
supporter,
judge.
but I have
And
seen Mourinho
we do
that,
so
you know.
regardless.
He has blamed the referee more than often, and of course, when he wins, the referee is very good to him. So I mean, Firoz has just put it. Ameweka kwa lugha ya mwananchi. What was final is that kwamba matokeo ni 4-2. We had 4 judges ruling in favor of the petitioner and 2 dissented. Now, which brings me to the next point. Before we go into the detail of the ruling of Njoki, Ndung'u, and of course, Jackton Ojwang. Now, Senior Counsel James Orengo did point out to a possible constitutional crisis. He said that Uhuru's mandate ends with these 60 days. If we don't have elections in 60 days, then Uhuru is a citizen like you and me. Some IEBC suppliers of critical equipment have said they cannot be ready by that date that was said. What are we looking at if that happens? Is Maraga going to be a president? I hear things like a caretaker government. I don't know who is next in line, whether it's a speaker, whether it's a chief justice. What are we looking at?
The constitution is very clear on this, because we expect that when the experts sat down and wrote the constitution,
yes,
they must have been keen so that in the event that we have a crisis, there will be a constitutional remedy for that crisis. So the constitution gives us 60 days.
Yes.
Uhuru Kenyatta now enjoys the power of incumbency. So if the 60 days elapse, then he ceases being president. But I've just heard him talk some careless statement that even if the 60 days elapse, let somebody try him, you will know that he's the president. So the constitution...
What does that mean? What does that mean? I mean, is he intending to cling to power?
That is a reckless talk from someone holding the office of the president. But what we know, the constitution is very clear. When the 60 days elapses, it means we can only have a case whereby we are forming a caretaker government, where Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta coming together, forming a government for like 90 days, and that government will ensure that we have the much needed reforms in IEBC so that they are able to carry out a free,
so you're saying if that happens, 90 days will elapse. That will be sometimes almost in March.
Certainly.
That's when we can have another credible election. Katoo, kauli yako ni gani kwa haya? Maana mimi nasikia pembeni watu wakisema ati ikiwa Uhuru hayupo au sasa sio rais na ofisi hiyo haina mtu, inabidi sasa atakayeshikilia mamlaka ni speaker, wengine wanasema ni kiongozi wa jeshi, wengine wanasema ni huyu Maraga. Ikiwa Maraga atakuwa rais na ameitwa mkora, sijui itakuwaje.
You know, sometimes if someone is upset,
yes,
you can speak out anything that you want. And politicians, they are not scared of talking anything. They can say anything ill about you, even if you're not even ill. And for that reason, I think this was all about a legal battle. And this election is all about those who understand the constitution very well.
Right.
And for now, it's not a crisis of death, it's not a crisis of anything. It is a legal crisis.
Yeah, but I mean, from all indications, I don't know, but from IEBC itself, it appears 17th is not possible.
Yeah, of course.
And
in fact, even according to what Uhuru was saying today, he's expecting IEBC
to give a date.
To give another date.
Although I thought the other day he was very clear that he's ready for the 17th. I don't know, perhaps he knows something we don't that has informed his new stance.
Taron is not working anymore. So, but I told you before, a law is what the judge says. That's fine. It's not the constitution. It's what Maraga says. If and I told you this election is all about a constitutional election. It's not any crisis. But so, to my own reason, I think the person who's going to interpret again the whole thing again, it's Maraga, and is going to be the person responsible in the whole thing again.
Wow. Vickery.
What we must remember, you know, we must be a country that learns from our mistakes. C.S. Matiang'i just woke up someday with some reckless claim, I don't know from where, and he was saying that the election must be held on 17th, and Chebukati was forced to declare that date at the date.
But I mean, what clout does Matiang'i have of IEBC? I thought IEBC was supposed to be independent.
Independence is just in papers, but in reality, IEBC is no longer independent. In fact, moving forward, we must run away from this blind faith of claiming that IEBC is independent. We should have a case whereby key political parties, the Law Society of Kenya, and maybe the clergy, nominating members into IEBC, so that at the end of the day, we have these personalities protecting the interests of this difficult group, because we pretend that we are the IEBC is independent. We give the president opportunity and everybody else to nominate these people. At the end of the day, they serve the interests of the government.
Looking at Uhuru's statement today, according to an interpretation done by Duale, his understanding is he is president until another president is sworn in. So basically what he's saying is that this notion that Senior Counsel James Orengo was bringing forth, that after 60 days his mandate is over, that's something he's not prepared to listen to. Will he then be a dictator by that time? Will he be violating the constitution? Will he be in power illegally? If he so insists and carries through what I consider a threat.
I think Duale, you cannot compare Duale with Orengo.
I mean, I don't know what legal expertise Duale has to be relied on.
Even a small kid can even define Duale.
Oh, really?
And I can tell you for sure, what I told you from the beginning, that this is all about legal battle. And I don't know what school of legal did he do it.
I don't know if you went to
and I think that was it was just a political talk. And for me, it was just trying to entice the whole community, because I understand they had a pastoralist meeting today.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised you are not invited.
I'm not one of them.
Let me just mention something about Duale. It is time we Kenyans know people to take serious in this country. You know, Duale is someone I would describe in 2 words as a privileged fool.
A what?
A privileged fool.
No, Vickery.
Do you know who a privileged fool is?
I don't know. You tell me.
A privileged fool is someone who never went to school properly, but due to their tricks, or we call it luck, they get some money and some power. So due to that power, they just talk carelessly.
No, but I thought he went to school. You can't say that.
Okay, after everything is said and done, we need to see the education in you. So we are not seeing any education in Duale.
Wow.
And just to add that, by the way, Duale seems to be a pastoralist. And he called himself a pastoralist. And we have our own, there's a way that he grew up as a young man. When he got into some stages, then I'm going to be an elder. Duale is an elder. And we should expect to learn something from him. But the way he is behaving, he behaves like a small boy from Jubilee.
Well, I don't know. I hoped perhaps he would have wanted to rely on a better constitutional figure. I think he has some respectable lawyers, the Muites of this world. I was also taken aback a bit when I heard him say that based on Duale's interpretation. So, I mean, that really portends a grave situation, because if the 60 days elapse and there are no elections and he says he's still president, what happens?
You see, Jubilee, as currently composed, is a pool of fraudsters, a pool of people who doesn't understand themselves. You know, there's this term that was used, that Jubilee government was composed of young people. So I think from the top, from the president, deputy president, majority leader, they are not mature enough. Because a person holding the office of the president, with all these advisors, the attorney general and everybody else, they ought to know what the constitution says if the 60 days elapse. So when they're coming around with this reckless talk, you know, chest thumping and all this manner of things, we can only conclude one thing. That there is a pool of people who doesn't understand the law, or if at all they understand the law, they doesn't care about it.
Violet Karani, watching from Mombasa. Thank you, asante sana. Duncan, who really listens to Duale, by the way? Well, good question. I don't know. But somebody seems to be relying on his counsel. So now you know at least one person listens to him. Let us go into the ruling of Justice Njoki and Jackton Ojwang. I think let's begin with Jackton Ojwang. That was a long ruling. I mean, it was embedded with heavy English words and nomenclature that I had for the first time yesterday. What's your making of it before we get into Njoki's ruling?
Okay, we must put things into perspective here. Mrs. Suda, who apparently is the wife to Jackson Ojwang, is a permanent secretary in the Jubilee government.
Really? Which ministry?
So, Minister of Education. But Miss Suda is a PS in the Jubilee government. So what Jackson Ojwang read yesterday were simply compromise Ulabalus, because there was no logic in what he was reading. The question that was before the court was very clear. The Jubilee lawyers and the IEBC lawyers were unable to demonstrate whether this election was manual or electronic. They were not able to demonstrate that actually Uhuru Kenyatta got 8.2 million votes. They failed to demonstrate that. So Ojwang coming and telling us that it doesn't matter how those fake forms were transmitted. What matters is the numbers. Remember, Mwilu said something, that when you are in early stages in school, you are taught.
I remember.
That when you are arriving at a solution, if you have a question, for example, y is equal to mx plus c, that is a linear equation, and you are asked to solve that using either completing square method, there are marks awarded for the steps. So if there are 4 marks, we will award for, if you are writing that equation in that form, y is equal to
the formula basically is important.
Yes, it is important. So we are awarding the marks based on the formula. So the formula in this case was, people get to the polling station, they are identified, they vote. At 5, the polling station is closed. There is a period of 30 minutes break. They come back, they count the results. They are tabulated in Form 34A. They are scanned. Okay, they are first signed by the agents. They are scanned, transmitted together with the results.
I hear you.
So, both the IEBC lawyers and Uhuru Kenyatta lawyers were unable to demonstrate whether that was followed. What they were telling us is that what was on the portal were mere statistics. When they were now told, can you demonstrate if this election was manual, they were not able to demonstrate. Okay. So, Ojwang basically was defending the job that Uhuru Kenyatta gave to the wife.
Wow. We just starting to wrap up. I'll do a few comments. There's one clip we'll watch and then we have closing remarks. Julius Bogada watching from Tanga, Tanzania. Asante sana. Aska Wairimo. I'm personally praying that God gives victory to NASA. Long live Maraga. And Judy watching from Pennsylvania, USA. Thank you for watching. Njoki, her ruling. I mean, it was also very long. And I mean, at some point she kept on saying, finally she went on, finally she went on, finally she went on. I mean, some people are saying this ruling sounds more like a lawyer representing one of the respondents. And she even implicated some of the members of the bench in some misgivings, bribery. And really, I don't know, is she planning to continue to be a member of the Supreme Court? And what do you think of Njoki's ruling?
I think Njoki's ruling was basically intimidating, and it was too personal, and she was totally biased. She was just defending Jubilee like any other lawyer, like Muite. So basically for me, there's nothing much that I can comment. It was very intimidating. It was a long statement that had nothing in it, and it was more of like even attacking the judges as well. So it was a very shallow judgment.
I mean, what does it say, Vickery, about moving forward the Supreme Court? I mean, given that ruling, can you have confidence going back to that court? Or do we have persons? Does everybody have their person in that court? Because it appears she's somebody's person.
You know, if if rising on the job is anything to go by, it must be remembered that Ndung'u is a nobody when it comes to
what do you mean is a nobody? That's a bit harsh.
When you're talking of prominent lawyers of substance in this country, Njoki is not one of them.
Really?
Njoki was picked by Udamaki and put there to serve their interest.
What is Udamaki?
Udamaki is to protect the interests of Mount Kenya Mafia.
I mean, those are hard statements.
It's not a hard statement. Njoki is not able to rise above ethnic urbanization and slavery in this country. Because when Ndung'u comes and is telling some of us who have gone to school and we understand simple logics, telling us that she personally sat down and analyzed the 11,000 forms that were not available when Chebukati was announcing the results. You know, 11,000, assuming that Ndung'u was using 2 minutes to peruse through each form. That is around 22,000 hours. If you divide that by 60, you're getting around 336 hours, which is around 22 days. So from the time the judgment was made and by yesterday, it's not even 22 days. So we are asking ourselves, where did she get these 22 days to go through all those forms? Where did she get these forms when IEBC themselves could not avail the forms? So that one tells you Ndung'u was serving the interest of Mount Kenya Mafia. And by the way, check the academic credentials of Ndung'u. She's not worth being a justice in a Supreme Court like the Supreme Court.
But I believe she went through a process. All these people went through a process. They went to parliament, there was vetting.
Just a minute, it must be remembered, the same Ndung'u was in a club with a brother of Uhuru Kenyatta before the hearing started. So you can't tell me.
Which club was this?
Some club in Nairobi.
I mean, Vickery, you seem to have details that some of us...
That picture went viral. She was sitting next to some man who was apparently was smoking. They were in a pub. So Ndung'u, just analyze her history. Even her schooling, she's not somebody that you can say as some element of success in her career. She was picked from somewhere and brought into the Supreme Court to serve the interests of the Kenya Mafia.
We want to wrap up with today. Uhuru was in the State House with supposedly wafugaji, and you know there were demonstrations in Samburu against attacks on Justice Lenaola. The same applies to Narok, and I hear there could be others today and even tomorrow. I just want us to have a look at that clip quickly and then have final closing comments, especially about that clip, because there are certain things that he has ordered, relief food to pastoralists and all that, and we are wondering about the timing. Could this be a case of trying to entice the pastoralist communities? Let's just have that clip quickly, then we wrap up.
So I want to put this very, very clearly for the Jubilee government to know that our son, we must have to fight for him. And we don't even to know the consequences of fighting for Lenaola. So for now, we are going to take actions, and we are not going to force Jubilee in any way.
Nini wanasimama wanatoa Lenaola ako na watu wake, na kama Samburu County tumesema Lenaola ni yetu.
We challenge the government today that Lenaola will stay, and those Jubilee supporters who protested against Lenaola, we are going to protest against you during our voting time.
We want the position Lenaola is, please go back to school. Mkisema debe ni ile tutasema Mungu ni yule.
So I want to put this very, very clearly for the Jubilee government to know that our son, we must have to fight for him. And we don't even to know the consequences of fighting for Lenaola. So for now, we are going to take actions, and we are not going to force Jubilee in any way.
Nini wanasimama wanatoa Lenaola ako na watu wake, na kama Samburu County tumesema Lenaola ni yetu.
We challenge the government today that Lenaola will stay.
Hii ni ndoano mnatupiwa, maana sasa inasemekana amepewa shinikizo Mheshimiwa Kiunjuri, Waziri Kiunjuri, pamoja na wanaoshughulika katika serikali na idara mbalimbali kuhakikisha kwamba kuna chakula kwa sababu ya kiangazi wakati huu. Kuna masuala ya IDPs, pesa ambazo imepitishwa na baraza la mawaziri. Je, unaona kama pengine mnalekewa ile mahindi?
I mean, the issue of food and okay, true, it's true. There is a lot of drought there.
Yes.
But I think it has not happened in such situation. I mean, for what is happening, they're just trying to entice the community because they know we actually in a very hard situation now. Our cows are dying down there, and our people are suffering. So they're trying to use the advantage of the situation that is there. But in the real sense, we have so many historical injustices that are there that have not been addressed. And if they can address all those injustices, we could have been in a very good position today. But if you're not addressing all those injustices and you're trying to entice me with 1 kg of maize and maybe a cup of maybe milk or something like that, it's like you're just trying to exploit the whole community. And that's why we're not even at those meetings. We are suffering actually. Our cows are being shot by a KDF. Our people get arrested anytime, even in the parks.
Yeah, Mheshimiwa Lembukel has been arrested severally.
It's not even him alone. You remember having what you call the Pangani 5.
Yes.
They were arrested for no reason. And those people were just there. I mean, they were demonstrating for the right. But eventually they've been arrested again. So whatever Uhuru is doing, he's trying to fool, I don't know, he's fooling who. But in the real sense, we are deeply in NASA. And those few people who have actually attended the meeting at the State House, those are sycophants, a few sycophants that we have in our community. But people understand exactly what is happening now.
So, I mean, what would you tell the people of Kajiado South and the entire Maa community?
I mean, my stand is we should stand for our people. We should stand for our justice. And the only person who has been defending our community is only Baba. And I'm telling them they should stand by that.
I hear you. Vickery, as we wrap up, now there appears to be this our man's syndrome. You know, we saw demos in Kisii defending Maraga. We've seen demos in Nyeri against Maraga. We've seen demos in Maa community defending Lenaola. You are saying Njoki is acting for and on behalf of of Mount Kenya. What does this portend moving forward for the Supreme Court, given that this is the highest court in the land, for any future disputes? And where does this leave the voter?
Thank you. You know, we are living in a country where negative ethnicity defines everything. And that is why when you look at the 7 pillars of the NASA agenda, national unity is of essence. And when you look at the latest book by Honorable Raila Odinga, The Quest for Nationhood, we are in a country where peace, negative ethnicity drives everything. So that even you remember, if anybody loots everywhere here, like the other day, Waiguru looted over $1 billion in Kibra, but she's elected a governor. So moving forward, we must have a government that brings all Kenya together, all Kenyans together, so that if somebody is on the wrong, like Jackson Ojwang was busy defending the wife, having been given some job by Jubilee. Ndung'u was defending the Mount Kenya mafia. When the other 4 judges stood for justice and said this election was a joke and ought to be nullified. So moving forward, I will ask Kenyans that, you know what, no amount of this ethnic slavery is going to save us. It is time we give opportunity to this Raila Amolo Odinga presidency, because what Uhuru Kenyatta is now giving, enticing the Maa community, the pastoralists, is around roughly 5 billion. And basically, Jubilee is looking for campaign money. But you know, Raila Odinga, in his manifesto, says that when he becomes the president, he's going to devolve 45% of the national revenue. That would mean currently counties like Kajiado, Narok, they are getting roughly between 8 and 9 billion. If you take it to 45%, they will be getting 27 billion every financial year. That money is enough to transform lives. We don't need to go to State House to beg for money. We don't need to go to State House to beg for anything.
Very well.
Let us give NASA opportunity if at all we want to transform our nation.
I hear you. Just two quick comments. Nancy saying the ruling was written by State House. Well, we have Mike Seda saying the ruling was unprofessional. And Hassan Rumbabu is saying eti yaitwa 34 Bs. Well, thank you very much for watching. Remember, if you want to contribute to the NASA cause and to this journey to Canaan, you can always send your contribution, however big, however small, to the pay bill number 991444. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.